Welcome once again to SoCo Chat, a podcast where we hear directly from county leaders, discuss the latest news, and talk about all things concerning our beautiful corner of California known as Sonoma County.
Welcome to SoCo Chat. I'm your host, Matt Brown, Deputy Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma. Thank you for joining us. Anyone who's ever watched a courtroom drama on TV will know that the right to an attorney is fundamental to our legal system. But not everyone can afford to retain legal representation. In those cases, the court will appoint a lawyer to represent a defendant and ensure a fair trial. That's when the public defender's office becomes involved. The office provides free legal service to defendants who are not financially able to employ their own legal counsel. It also provides support for immigrants facing deportation proceedings. Here to talk about all of this is Sonoma County Public Defender Brian Morris. But before we get to our interview, here's our trivia question for the week. What is the name of the Supreme Court case that established the constitutional right to an attorney? If you know the answer, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. If you are correct, you will be entered into our drawing to win a SoCo Chat coffee mug. So with that, let's get on to our discussion. Thanks for being here, Brian.
Thanks, Matt, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Well, it's been too long, so I'm so glad we could have you on here. I just really wanted to start with an overview of the Sonoma County Public Defender's Office. Can you tell us a little bit about the office, how many staff you have, kind of what are the main core services that you provide?
Excellent. So we have about 70 people in the office. I say about because that number fluctuates every now and again, depending on how many interns we have or if we're doing a recruitment or something like that. But we have 41 attorneys, 15 support staff, and 9 investigators. And we do represent, as you said, people who can't afford to hire their own attorney, mostly in criminal cases and for adults and for juveniles. But we also handle some mental health cases. And another thing that we do, which we'll probably talk about a little bit more later, is holistic defense, which is helping people basically improve their lives if we can, and not just working on only the criminal case, but looking at the person as a whole. So we do try to do a little bit more, or I should say a lot more, than just the criminal case.
Yeah, well, great. I did want to get into that as well in this interview, but I kind of want to start out with, the big fear that we're hearing from the immigrant community, which is the fear of deportation, especially with the increase in federal immigration enforcement. I understand that your office is now providing services for immigrants who are facing deportations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I want to talk about the fear first, which is real. And on any given day, like once every couple weeks, there'll be an email that goes out, like a frantic email saying ICE is in the building in the courthouse. So what happens then is basically everybody, all the attorneys who are upstairs in court, get the email, and everyone gets into a heightened state of anxiety and fear, not just obviously our attorneys, but our clients, and they're the ones that are afraid of being arrested by ICE. So
these are clients that are defendants in cases, not necessarily deportation cases. They're there in the legal system.
Right. Yeah, there are clients here in Sonoma County, and the fear and anxiety that is generated by these rumors of ICE in the building is palpable. And we immediately go up to the court floor, investigate, try to find out what's happened, and if it really is an ICE agent, because we want to let people know that it's not if it isn't. And there have been false alarms in the last couple of months, and I think there's more false alarms now because of the ICE arrests that actually did occur on campus, not in the courtroom, but on campus. So that fear is very real, and it basically causes everyone to drop what they're doing to address that issue and try to make our clients as comfortable as we can, as quickly as we can, quell that rumor and make sure that they're not wanting to leave court because they might have court that day, for instance. And we also have witnesses who don't want to come to court for the same reason. And, for the district attorney, they have people who are victims of crimes that don't want to come to court either for the same reason. So it has a pretty significant effect. The fear does.
A really chilling effect on the legal system. Just those rumors. I know there was the one incident of an arrest off, not in the court, but in I think the probation office. Was there other, besides the rumors, have there ever been actual cases of ICE being on campus that you know of?
Not that I know of. I think there had been before I got here about 3.5 years ago. I think there was a case in 2019 where there had been an arrest, but I wasn't here at that time, so I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about that.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the services that you can provide to the immigrants that are actually facing deportation.
Yeah, well, what we do initially is we have, if one of our clients is a non-citizen, we'll have that client talk with an immigration attorney that we have in the office to work on the best possible resolution to the case that they have here in Sonoma County to reduce any immigration consequences they might suffer from a conviction in the case. So we work really hard on that. And then previously, before we had a deportation defense attorney in the office, we would then say, okay, basically good luck in federal court. And we tried to set you up as best we could, but there isn't a right to an attorney in federal court, in immigration court. So it was really difficult for our clients to go then into federal court and take advantage of the best deal that we got for them. So now, in the last couple of months, we have a removal defense, a deportation defense attorney that started working on those cases and is now then working with our immigration consequences attorney in the office to collaborate together and get as much information as we can get about the case and about, connect with that person's family before their criminal case here is resolved, so that we have a head start moving into the removal defense case in federal court.
That's great. It's a great service that you can provide for those people. I know it's not really a stretch to say that the legal system is plagued by systemic racism. How does the public defender's office work to combat that perceived and real racism that exists within the justice system?
Just like the fear is real that we talked about previously, the systemic racism is also real. And I'm not blaming that on anyone who is here now in the county. This is 400 years in the making, essentially. But if you go up into any of the courtrooms on any given day here in Sonoma County, you will see disproportionate representation of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC people, in the courtrooms. And that is also borne out in the numbers that you see in the jail population. So, for instance, in the jail, the Latinx population is 38%. In the county as a whole, it's only 27%. So there's 11% more disproportionate representation of Latinx folks in the jail. It's even worse for people who are Black. In the jail, the percentage of people who are Black is 9%, and in the community at large in Sonoma County, it's only 2%. So it's very clear and pretty obvious that this systemic racism exists in the criminal legal system. So what we like to do as best we can is to provide culturally responsive services, and one of the main things that we've focused on is providing Spanish language services. So we've hired a lot of attorneys who speak Spanish. We have a social worker who is bicultural and bilingual. We have a DMV liaison, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit more later, who is also bicultural and bilingual in Spanish. And so what we're trying to do is provide those services to make people who are monolingual Spanish speakers much more comfortable with their cases. And I think it helps us also to spend more time and to connect with our clients better by speaking the language that our clients are most comfortable with. So we're really working towards that. And also, there's a law that allows challenges to convictions and sentences if they were based on race or national origin, the Racial Justice Act. So we've been working towards filing motions and working on those motions and getting the data to support those motions. So that's another way that we're addressing that issue here in Sonoma County.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for explaining that. Let's talk about that holistic approach that you mentioned earlier. What does that mean, taking a holistic approach to representation, and what other services can you provide?
Yeah, I think you've probably heard of and maybe even, witnessed in some way that there is a revolving door often in the criminal courts, and that revolving door is the result of people who may have a substance use disorder or mental health issues, or they need a job, or they need to have their record cleared. So what we don't want to do is just work on the criminal case, have someone get released from the jail or finish their case, and then come right back, right? And so it's like, hey, here we are again. And well, now we ask, well, how can we help you? Like, what can we do to make your life better? How can we potentially improve your life? And a lot of the ways that we try to do that is, like I said, we have a social worker, and we try to connect folks with the services that they need. If it's substance use disorder services or mental health services, and we also help to clear people's records. We have the immigration services that I mentioned. And we're often trying also to get people into like mental health diversion or diversion programs to help get them services they need through those programs, because often you can connect someone with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or therapy, individual therapy, group therapy. There's all sorts of things that we can do to help people connect with the services that they need. And in the end, the hope is that really they don't come back into the criminal legal system, and that they then help themselves to lead a more productive life in the community, which of course makes the community safer.
Yeah, so closing that revolving door and making them, better for it, and not getting back into the criminal justice system. Yeah, another aspect or thing that you provide, which I thought was kind of a unique service, is this a DMV liaison. You're helping people get their driver's license back. Tell me a little bit about that. Why do you want to get people back with their driver's license?
Well, a lot of misdemeanors are based on driving on a suspended license or consequences from a DUI. And so it's similar to the thing we talked about with the revolving door. When you have a suspended license, often that's a way to get yourself caught in the system. And then you have to keep coming back and keep coming back, because it's really hard to live a life in any community without being able to drive. You might need to go to work. You might need to pick up your kids. Whatever it is, people often need to drive. And then even though their license might be suspended, they might drive anyway. So they'll pick up a case, and then those cases get bigger and bigger the more times that you get convictions for those offenses. So what we want to do is help people with getting their license back. And often they just don't know how. And if you go to DMV, I'm sure a lot of people have experienced, it's sometimes difficult to navigate DMV.
Every time is difficult, usually.
Well, we appreciate that they're working with us, so I'm trying to be nice. They're working with us, and it is very good. But imagine if you didn't speak English and you were trying to navigate the DMV. That would be really hard. So our DMV liaison will call the DMV for you, connect with the people in Sacramento who you have to talk to in order to get something done for your license. She also goes to the DMV office about 2 times a week with clients, and also works towards getting people into the DUI school, which is a big component of the job, and also to get proof of completion of that, find out where there's some owed fines, maybe it's in another county or something. But all of these things she works on and has amazing results. I was asking one of the attorneys about, how's it going with the DMV liaison, and they were ecstatic. Said, oh my God, she is unbelievable. The results that she's getting are incredible. She's like a superhero who can just break through brick walls of bureaucracy to get things done. And so we're really happy to have her. She's amazing.
That's great. Well, maybe she can help me navigate the DMV next time I have to go there. Just kidding, but it's a great service that you guys provide. I want to talk a little bit about Prop 36. It's a 2024 ballot measure that allows district attorneys to file felony charges, and it also increases sentences for certain drug and theft crimes. Has this increased your workload?
Yes, it has, and I want to talk a little bit about it. There was a Prop 47, which was designed to basically keep people with low-level offenses out of prison because the prisons were overcrowded. This Prop 36 is a bit of a rollback of Prop 47, and it's allowing for charges, felony charges for basically low-level drug charges and theft charges, and the possibility of having people go back to prison. We'll go back to the systemic racism part. So in prison, you'll also find a disproportionate representation of BIPOC people. So this particular Prop 36 is now going to be reinforcing that systemic racism again and going back in that direction of filling up the prisons. Hopefully that doesn't happen here, and we have heard from the district attorney that she doesn't think that low-level drug cases should end up with people in prison, and I'm hoping that that's going to be the case. But the design of Prop 36 is essentially to roll back part of the Prop 47. So what we're seeing is approximately a little bit more than 10% increase in our felony caseload and workload at this point, based only on the Prop 36 cases. And those cases are obviously more difficult to handle than what they were before, which was misdemeanors. So there's also Prop 36 misdemeanors that are charged. But those are now harder, too, to handle, because if you get convicted of a misdemeanor in Prop 36, that misdemeanor then can be used as one of the priors to get you charged with the felony under Prop 36. So everything is more difficult now, and there's more work to be done, and we have to fight harder and harder to not get those convictions on the record so that a felony could be charged in the future. So the workload has increased by quite a bit, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about workload, and I'll come back to how many attorneys we should have to address that issue.
Well, yeah, I wanted to mention about workload. Even before Prop 36, public defenders are notoriously overwhelmed with massive caseloads. There's a lot of work. Is that the situation with your office, and how do you and your attorneys triage this massive amount of cases that you receive?
Unfortunately, it is true here in Sonoma County, like it is in pretty much every other public defender office that I have heard of across the nation. The problem is that here in Sonoma, we actually have more cases per attorney than almost every other Bay Area public defender office. So it's hard for all the offices, but it's even harder for ours. So what we have then is our attorneys are stretched very thin because they're having to represent a lot of people. And our attorneys care so much that they will work and work and work to get the job done to provide that excellent representation our clients deserve, but often at their own detriment and to their own health, which is not good. So we have a lot of attorneys who are experiencing tremendous stress, and that stress can lead to mental health problems, can lead to a medical leave or mental health leave and that kind of thing. So it's really unfortunate. I think our attorneys do a fantastic job, but under incredibly stressful circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have the right amount of attorneys?
That's another good question, Matt. You're coming with good questions today. There was a study that came out recently, the National Public Defender Workload Study, which basically talked about how many attorneys you would need for the kind of cases that you have. And we applied that study to our office, and it showed that we needed about approximately a little more than double the attorneys that we currently have. So that was surprising, but also not super surprising, because we knew that we needed more attorneys. And back to Prop 36, we ran the numbers on Prop 36, and it was the numbers that were after a couple months of Prop 36 being in effect. And it showed that we needed about 8 attorneys just for Prop 36 cases, the new felonies and the new misdemeanors, because the misdemeanors, like I said, are harder than the misdemeanors used to be. So we needed about 8 more just for that. But maybe another 50 would probably do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, it doesn't sound like being a public defender is the most glamorous job in the legal world. I'm sure you went to law school with colleagues who went on to prestigious law firms and making massive salaries, but yet the public defender's office is a vital part of the legal system. Why do you go into this type of work? Why do you do this, and what do you like best about this job?
Well, the folks in those big law firms, they might be making a ton of money, but often they aren't very happy with the work that they're doing. So it's about what's in your heart. And I think that people in my office, like at all the levels with the investigators, the attorneys, and the support staff, everybody really cares. There's empathy, there's compassion, and I think they get a lot of value from the work being so meaningful. So that actually kind of fills you up with some positive energy and makes the work worthwhile. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's much more meaningful work than some other work that might be done in a big building in Los Angeles and some like LA Law or something like that. I actually used to do civil work for 3 years before I started doing public defender work, and I couldn't stand it anymore. So, and I felt immediately better. I took a huge pay cut to come into public defender work, but immediately I knew I was where I needed to be, and it felt right.
That's great. Well, I appreciate that. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I did want to add that I do appreciate the collaboration in the county, all the departments that are working to help a lot of our clients, essentially. A lot of the departments are working on substance use disorder, the mental health issues, getting jobs. Everyone seems to have our clients' interests in mind and works towards helping with those things. Like the behavioral health department or that unit is doing great work, and everyone seems to be trying to help. So I'm encouraged by that, and I appreciate that collaboration in the county.
Well, thank you so much for doing what you do and coming here on to SoCo Chat to explain it.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it again.
Well, thanks again, Brian. We do appreciate that. And as a gift, we'd like to offer you a SoCo Chat coffee mug or a water bottle or hat or any other kind of swag we have. And to our listeners, we'd also like to offer you a chance to win a SoCo Chat coffee mug. All you have to do is correctly answer the trivia question for today. As a reminder, our question is, what is the name of the Supreme Court case that established the constitutional right to an attorney? I'm sure Brian knows, but if you know, give us a call at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. Also, if you have comments about this or any other segment, or if you have a suggestion about a topic for a future SoCo Chat discussion, please email us at that same address, publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. Thank you all, and we hope you continue to follow us, SoCo Chat, on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and of course on YouTube.